Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. I guess that Mark will join us when he gets here. He might have had problems like I did getting signed on. So we'll go ahead and get started. As in the past, as long as we're Zooming, we will forego the pledge to the allegiance. And the first item on our agenda is a public hearing, a request for an extension of a liquor license from the Why Not Underground. And I think everybody's had an opportunity to look at the application and the diagram, so.
I can also show it to you if you want me to show it via video. I can walk outside.
Oh, you outside? No, that's okay. That's okay. And essentially, it's just a revision to your current liquor license to include outdoor seating.
Yeah.
I make a motion we...
Oh, no motion now. No. This is the public hearing, Lou.
Okay.
So are there any questions or comments regarding the liquor license?
I have been in their establishment and they seem to be very neat and tidy and seem to have no problems.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, good. All right, if there aren't any comments, then we will go ahead with item news. We will close the public hearing. We'll open the Board of Selectmen's meeting, and our first order of business will be official action on the public hearing liquor license for the Why Not facility.
I make a motion we approve the liquor license for Why Not. I'll second.
Okay, any comment or discussion? All in favor? And again, if you raise your hand so we can see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with your outdoor seating and everything. I think that's great.
Thank you. We hope hopefully it picks up business with it.
Yeah.
We hope so. Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
You too. Thank you. Okay, minutes of the May 20th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I will second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, thank you. They have passed. Financial reports. The first is payroll warrant number 70. And I'll make a motion that we approve payroll warrant number 70.
I'll second it.
Any comments or discussion? All in favor? Okay. And we have accounts payable warrants. Account payable warrant number 71 is the general accounting. I had a chance to review that this afternoon in detail, and I'll make a motion that we approve accounts payable warrant number 71.
I will second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? The one thing I mentioned to Matt, because there was an item for a ballistic vest for a police officer, and he reminded me that we had a new police officer on board, and because we're all in kind of this quarantine situation, we haven't had a chance to meet them. So I said, what you ought to do is put their pictures up on the website so we can all see our new officers.
I've had a chance to meet him a couple times. Nice guy.
Oh, good. So, accounts payable warrant number 72. That's for Hagar for the Bristol sidewalk.
I'll second.
Now, who made the motion? Lou?
I did. Josh did.
Josh did. Okay, and Daryl seconded. Any discussion? Any discussion?
As long as it beats all the sign-offs from Brian and Matt, I guess I'm all good with it.
Okay.
It does.
Yes. Have they got the correct gravel now?
You're asking if they're replacing the gravel now? It's somebody's phone.
I'm sorry.
So
Okay, did you get your question answered, Lou?
no.
No.
So
Matt,
yeah.
are we going to talk about this later in the agenda?
I could just mention it now, and then we don't have
Okay.
to talk about Bristol Road again. Yes, the old gravel is being pulled up, and hopefully new gravel that meets the MDOT requirements will be put down so that the asphalt for the sidewalk can finally be put in place. We've got a recent issue regarding two different sets of results from two different tests. And I just got the second set of tests a few minutes ago. So we'll sort all that out tomorrow. But I'm optimistic we're still going to be able to get this sidewalk completed by the deadline of June 13th.
Perfect.
And I got a question for you.
Mark, go ahead.
The second results, where is that from?
The second results that came today,
Yes.
just a few minutes ago, that's from CW Cole. I think they're in Brunswick. So they took a sample at the same time MDOT did. There's a huge difference in the results for the sample that had failed previously, and I just need some expertise to help me sort through it. It's a scale of 0 to 7 percentage points. Previously we were off 0.5, so it was above the scale. It was 7.5, and now we're at 7.7, and the results I just saw from the private firm are at 6. So that's an extreme difference, 1.7 on a 7-point scale. I don't understand it. I just I'll have to talk with the expert tomorrow, and we've got to sort this out. We really got to get this project done.
You really do, because, you know, if you look at the test results, they were taking at the same time. Those two individuals, the state and SWCO right there, took from the same sample and tested the same exact gravel. Now, the state came and tested that pile on Monday, and those results passed. So as soon as they got taken down on that sidewalk and put in, then they fail in them. But what you have to keep in mind too is all along there's been a little bit of a dispute, because the gentleman from the state who came down to do a test didn't want to dig it out of the sidewalk, so he had the excavator pull some out of the back of the truck. When you take it out of the back of the truck and it's near the end of the load, you have a higher percentage of larger rocks. And we called him on it. And then we took it all the way up through the state. So there's some people covering up with some people radio. Well, I'm just gonna make an observation right now, Mark, and I know you're part of Hager Enterprises right now, and speaking on behalf of them, but this issue is not a board issue. This is an issue between Maine DOT and Brian and Matt. You know, I think it's been resolved for the most part. I don't want to rehash finger pointing, and I think the issues have been taken care of, and I think we're moving forward. I don't want to keep going back and forth. This is not our time where we need to hear about it. There's proper procedures to follow, and I don't think we should be discussing this at this point. Absolutely not, Josh. I totally disagree with you, because this is the full board needs to hear about what's really going on.
Yes.
I also think, Mark, you need to identify yourself as Mark Hager, president of Hager Enterprises, if you're going to speak on behalf of this. Absolutely. I got no problem at all, and I've done that every time and not voted on issues. But since we're talking about this issue, and it's great that the test was done at the same time, and finally they got together so that they did do this test at the same time and notified. On the test on Monday when they took it, that's a procedure that you're supposed to let the owners know so that you both take the test and you quarter the test, which they came and took it without even letting anybody know. So there's more to it, Josh, than you even understand. So
Mark, with all due respect, in the contract, I'm sure there's a process to appeal and to go through it. But coming to the board tonight to go rehash it is not really the best avenue at this point. The update should come from Matt, and you as the contractor and Matt should be working together to resolve what you have. And we need to make this a positive approach going forward. We know the issues have been taken care of for the most part. We're moving forward. Let's not rehash what's already been taken care of.
I just want to make sure the full board understands what's going on, Josh.
Well, before we go further on this, we have a motion and a second just to approve the payment for work done so far. So let's separate that issue from any other issue dealing with the Bristol sidewalk project, because we can talk about that separately or not after we take the vote. So unless somebody has a specific question on the warrant regarding payment to Hager Enterprises for the work done on the Bristol sidewalk project, are there any comments about that? Then why don't we go ahead and vote on that? And then we can go down on town manager items meetings. There is a Bristol sidewalk discussion period, so we can talk about the sidewalk then. All right?
Sounds good.
I'm curious.
So let's go ahead. Somebody is, I hear somebody's TV on or something. I don't know. Let's go ahead and take a vote. If there are no comments about the bill itself, let's go ahead and vote on the Hager Enterprises warrant, okay?
Would you please reread the motion?
It's
Oh, the
too,
motion is
thought
to
it was
accept
like
accounts payable, accounts payable warrant number 72 for Hager Enterprises for the Bristol Road sidewalk.
Subject, wasn't there a subject to?
no, it's been reviewed and
No.
approved by staff and the inspector
Yeah, no,
and
this
and
is just
DOT.
their payment for the work done.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go ahead and vote on the motion. If you approve the warrant. Okay,
I abstain.
okay. Now, we have a presentation from the downtown business owners through the chamber, Lisa Hagan for the chamber. And she was here with Susan last selectmen's meeting with a proposition or proposal to do open air markets downtown. We had a lot of questions, a lot of comments, and asked her to go back and talk to the businesses, come up with a kind of a firm proposal. And so she's back tonight. You all received a copy of a proposal for the open air market. I hope you had a chance to review it. And I'll turn it over to Lisa. I'm sorry, Lisa, to talk about what you've come up with in the last 2 weeks.
Okay, so we refined the plan because we're trying to make the plan work for everybody, because there are several businesses that are not happy with giving away parking spaces, not necessarily happy with the day that it's taking place. So we brainstormed and came up with the idea that we could do the open air market on one side of the street, the east side of Main Street, and started at Attic Heirlooms down through the rest of Main Street, and allow Rennie's to have the 4 parking spaces, which includes 1 handicap on the east side, and leave that open, and then leave open on the west side of Main Street all the parking spaces to hopefully alleviate concerns that we're taking away too many parking spaces. So west side would be totally open with regular parking all the way down, and it would start at Attic Heirlooms on the east side of Main Street.
Who is going to provide the help for the porta potty?
Porta potties are taken off of the plan. So the porta potties is not even part of the plan. That came up 2 weeks ago as something that was on the wish list, and it's been taken off because, we feel at this point we want to get something up and running to try to give businesses a boost in the community. People are not comfortable necessarily going into small business locations, and we feel like an open air market would help give a boost to the community with a lot of marketing behind it and get people outside and shopping on one side of the street versus what we were originally hoping for, which was both sides of Main Street.
So if you have to have an emergency, you're in trouble.
Yep.
But you would be anyway if you're shopping downtown. There aren't porta potties now. I talked with I talked with
it is now. Yeah.
I talked with one of the city council members in Rockland because they're closing their streets down and for open air markets. And I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "We're not doing anything different than we would have if there were no coronavirus. So if you didn't have porta potties before the self-quarantining, then you don't need them now because people know what to do or where to go. Restaurants are required by law to have restrooms for their patrons. So there are some restrooms available downtown. If you gotta go. But otherwise, if I went downtown tomorrow afternoon, I'd have to go back home if I had to go. So.
Definitely. As far as the restaurants and everyone else is concerned, are they going to want people marching in to go to the bathroom? Because if they go to the bathroom, after somebody goes to the bathroom, somebody's going to clean it.
That's right.
Immediately.
Yeah, I talked to the people at King Ider's Pub, and they said that what they're doing, because they do permit people, non-patrons, to use the facilities, is that they have to fill out the state form for contact information or whatever. So if somebody in the restaurant gets sick, they'll know they can call the person to use the bathroom too. But they're not refusing service for people that want to come in and use the bathroom. They're just following the state law. So that's all I can say. But are there other questions about the proposal? They listened to what we said. They've gone from 25 spaces down to 12. So the businesses. Josh?
Yeah, I've got a question, and I had this before, and I'm always concerned about safety and liability for the town, as well as everybody else participating. But I have yet to see anything about liability. The participating businesses, does their commercial liability policy cover these outdoor things beside a roadway? And who's liable should someone drive through these cones or fall over in a chair within these parking spaces? Who's bearing the liability?
Lisa, did you address that at all with any business, or does it get?
No, I don't have an answer to that.
Okay.
Can I raise my hand for a moment, please?
Sure.
Quite honestly, when a person comes into my restaurant, inside my restaurant, I bear some liability. But if some bozo drives through a cone, it's the bozo's responsibility, don't you think? I mean, I feel like we're talking about who's, if some extreme tragedy occurs, who's going to pay the bill? I mean, Portland is doing this. Rockland is doing it. They're all figuring this out. It is not rocket science. Our street is even open. It's open. People can drive through. And, I got rear-ended the other day, right? That's what insurance is for. Someone hit me. But, I mean, I just think this is kind of an over-the-top kind of question here.
I totally disagree with you.
I think if
I
someone's
totally
a bad
disagree
driver,
with you.
There's something, Susan, that we have to think about as a town.
right?
No.
Well, you know, and I also, as a restaurant owner, have to think about the liability of people getting sick because I'm letting people use my bathroom too.
Yeah.
The town's not responsible for that.
So how is it?
Wait one second here. Mark has his hand up. Mark?
I got a question as far as who's putting out the safety cones. And then we did talk about safety barriers to see what the cost of that was. I don't know what that came out to be. But whoever puts them out is actually on the line, I would think, a little bit more. And I do agree with Josh. We do have to look at who is actually controlling that, because when they sue everybody, everybody's going to get sued anyways. But they're going to try to get the biggest pockets.
In the proposal, each restaurant is responsible for putting up their own kiosk.
The kiosk is different than a barrier, though. We had talked about in the
We talked about cones.
well, and also barriers like the barriers that we used at Pumpkin Fest, because they are more sturdy and what have you than traffic cones are. We also talked about plastic chains and bollards and things like that from the hardware store. So a lot of different things were talked about, and no decision was made on any of it. Matt, I think, got some preliminary numbers for those metal barricades, the heavy metal barricades that Pumpkin Fest uses. Do you have that, Matt? Wait a sec.
Yes, I do. Larry Seidlinger responded to my message earlier today. I asked him what it cost them for Pumpkin Fest, and they had, that was quite a bit in the way of barricades. The total cost was $4,500, and then he said to add another $750 each way for transportation to, I think it was Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. So so it'd be $1,500 plus. If we used half of what they used at Pumpkin Fest, we're talking about $2,750 to $3,000. Or even, it'd be even a little more than that.
Do we, maybe answer this, the PD, the highway department, besides cones, don't we have barricades, road closed signs, the ones that we block off like Elm Street and whatnot? They're larger, not the
Sawhorses,
fencing.
like the sawhorses.
Yeah, like the sawhorses. Yeah. We have those, or is that?
We do have road closed barriers, not that many of them, and we do have cones, and we can borrow cones from other towns. We've frequently.
We had Josh and Mark, we always, the liability and the safety is an issue. I wonder if there's a happy medium where, cones can be overlooked, but at the same time, what if they use a larger barrier, like the road closed sign? That would be pretty significant, barrier there. But I don't know. I think
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, okay. Somebody's trying to get into the meeting, Matt. So
When we have Pumpkin Fest, are we all liable? How does that work?
Pumpkin Fest pays for insurance to cover everything for Pumpkin Fest.
Okay. So have we looked at what other towns, what Portland is doing? Are they paying insurance for this? Is Rockland paying insurance to do this?
I haven't looked into.
Okay, well that might be a good place to start.
From the town standpoint, we'd be covered under our policy through the Maine Municipal Association. So if it's determined that we get a claim and we're negligent, then our insurance company would be paid.
I hate to see us get caught up in a very good simple idea with a lot of what ifs, and I don't know. Sometimes you got to forge ahead with something and try it.
Robin? Who's that, Lorraine? I'm sorry, I'm trying to send something off to Matt, but go ahead.
Mark.
I got a question. As far as as the barriers, if you are looking at doing something for something to keep it off the air, of course, I'm going to stick my neck out a little bit. If we have some barriers at Hager's, we'd be willing to let them use them. We do. We also do it with the Legion. They come and use it when they do this safety booth where they run money. And, you know, we talk about it as a company and say, look, you know, there are some community things that we just got to do. There is some risk involved with that, but, you know, if we were running gun shy all the time, we wouldn't be doing anything. And as long as we got some insurance, we got to do something.
Lorraine?
Thanks. Yeah, you didn't start with public comment, so I have a comment in regards to this. The insurance issue, Matt, I don't know if you have a blanket policy with MMA that would cover it, but a lot of insurance companies have like a one-day policy you can buy for special events that isn't too much. I mean, like a couple $100. I'm here actually representing Damariscotta Newcastle Rotary, and in support of trying this sidewalk sale issue. We would be interested in supporting the merchants and getting people to spend money in town. I don't know initially if we're going to have a lot of people from visitors, but a merchant said to me the other day that normally between the 4th of July and Labor Day, she has nobody in the store that's local because all the local people get into, you know, there's no parking downtown, the business, I can't go. Well, this is the year everybody should be going downtown. And so we could provide the Rotary Club, we could provide a couple of people every time you do this to, with our nice yellow safety vests, to offer free masks to people who aren't wearing a mask, and encourage them to physically appropriate distances, that kind of thing. So I'm here to speak in favor of this.
Thank you, appreciate it. Any other questions from the board for Lisa? Or Matt, do you have questions?
No.
I will say, the board, you got an email, or Matt sent you an email from Faustine Rennie today with some questions. I followed up on the email. She was concerned about ADA and wheelchairs getting down the sidewalks if tables and what have you were on the sidewalks. And in her email, she suggested that the tables, kiosks, whatever, be set up in the parking spaces themselves. So I got in touch with Faustine and I asked her if, because she did not support it for the ADA reason. So I said, okay, if the businesses were to set up their outdoor wares in the parking spaces, so the sidewalks were clear, would she then be for the plan? And she said, yes, she would. And I did forward that email to Matt, so he has that on file. So the question is, there are a couple things on the table. The proposal, which is only closing down half of the parking spaces for a short period of time. Hold on, Haas, I see you raising your hand. For a short period of time, when they first came to us, it was all weekend, all day, from morning till night, all day for Saturday and Sunday. And so I think they listened to us and what our concerns and comments were last time and came back with a better proposal for us. I understand, I think, Mark offering up some barricades from Hagar Enterprises. If we have those and can use those with the road closing crossbucks to close off the 12 parking spaces and impose on the good offices of the Rotary to be out and about, making sure that people are safely distancing and provide masks for those that want or need them or what have you. So that's kind of where we are now. Does the board have any other questions for Lisa or Susan? Okay, Haas, do you have a question or comment?
I, for one, be going because I drive down Main Street on the weekend, on Saturday, and 3/4 of the people on the sidewalks were not wearing masks. In other words, they do not take seriously what we have, even though it hasn't hit Maine as hard as elsewhere in this country, what we have coming at us. And you wear masks not to protect yourself, but to protect others from yourself if you're infected and don't know it. And I think that if you're going to do anything like this, it should be accompanied by a public information campaign about wearing masks.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's from my perspective, it's almost immoral because of the health risks you're putting people through.
Well, maybe we could impose on the Rotary, since Lorraine said that they would be handing out masks to those that need them, to kind of spearhead that effort.
And I would be willing to make sure that is in any kind of marketing materials, on social media and press releases, and to stress the fact that everybody needs to be wearing masks. I mean, I agree with you. I think we all need to be, keep our community safe. We love our community, and while I think we've done a good job, we have a lot of people coming in that are opening up their houses from some high-risk states, and we all want to be safe, and we want to keep our community safe. So I would definitely put that into any of the marketing materials on social media and press releases and whatnot.
You have to be cognizant of the fact, though, that some of these businesses are restaurants, and people are going to be sitting down having a cup of coffee, and they're not going to wear masks when they're having a cup of coffee and a bagel.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You do have to be cognizant that they're not going to have a mask on.
But they will be
walking up and down
immobile
the street.
and only 6 feet apart.
Right. Yeah, and walking up and down the street, they would be doing that. So,
I just want to add one more thing. Or Lorraine, were you about to speak?
Well, I just want to make clear, we do not have a supply of masks, but my understanding is merchants have them. So if somebody, I've been reading stuff, if you don't have a mask, ask for one, we'll give you one, type thing. So I just want to make sure that you didn't think I had a whole warehouse full somewhere.
at the very least, we can get some bandanas, and everybody can look like cowboys.
We'll get them to Rennie's to give us some or something, yeah.
I just want to point something out. The CDC continues to say that ventilation is one of the biggest issues. Indoor spaces are much more dangerous than outdoor spaces. And yes, we need to wear masks, but I can tell you that if somebody's sitting at a table and eating, or they're with a family member, they're probably not going to be 6 feet apart.
Right.
And that's just the way it is. But they're safer outside than in a closed space.
Dick McLean had a comment, and then we have to move on because we have a big agenda tonight.
I just have a question. If and when the board decides to agree to this, will there be some sort of time parameters when we agree to do things, close down streets, finance barriers, etc., etc.? It's for something that we know when it's going on. Is this going to be every Saturday forever, or is this going to be June and July? So when you come to an agreement, I think you'd want to have some understanding so that May of next year somebody suddenly pops up with a kiosk outside and says, I said we could do that.
Right now, the initial proposal was for June, to try it in June, to pilot test it, so to speak, in June, and see how it's working, and see what happens with the governor, who may or may not be opening the state more in July, and just go month to month after June. And it could be that in June nothing changes, in which case do we really need to do it?
Exactly. So we want to try it for a couple weeks. So we're proposing June 13th, 11 to 4 p.m. on, the balance of Saturdays in the month of June. And, it may not even work. But, we're hoping to try it to give our businesses that are hurting and hanging on by a shoestring to see if this would do something. And if it doesn't, then okay.
I think at this point, because so many changes have been made, it'd be kind of a minimal cost. So what are your thoughts? Or do you want Daryl?
I'd like to see him go forward with it. You know, let's try it out, work out the bugs. Sometimes that comes, you know, it's a pilot program, so there's going to be some hiccups, and we can't, we can't prepare for every eventuality. Sometimes you just got to go for something and try it. So, does this need a motion, Robin, or what do we?
Matt, do we need a motion? We're kind of in presentation part. Do we need to?
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure.
I think it'd be appropriate to have a motion on it.
Okay.
If the board is supportive of the open air market and is adopting the recommendations of the businesses as presented by Lisa, I would say it'd be appropriate to have a motion to that effect.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, you're a second?
Second.
I heard a couple seconds. Okay, any other discussion? I just have two questions, or a question and a comment for Lisa. Have you heard anything from Newcastle? I know their board meeting is later, but have you heard any preliminary?
No. So I talked to the town manager, and he wants to see how it pans out with Damariscotta. He said he was intrigued by the idea, and they couldn't do anything before the 8th, and that's sort of where it's at.
Okay. All right. And the other thing in your proposal, you talk about it's only for town businesses, brick and mortar stores, no outside vendors and food trucks.
Right.
And I agree with that. However, if someone wants to put an outside vendor or a food truck on their private property in the village, they can do that.
Well,
We can't
they could.
stop that. And they can do that now. Whether you do the open air market or not, they can do that now. So I just wanted to, make you aware of that we cannot prohibit someone from putting somebody up on their private property. So just so you know that. But as far as including outside vendors kind of on the streets or in the empty parking spaces or in front of the stores that are closed now, like the Weatherbirds Lady Shop, then yeah, that I don't think that'd take place. So you don't have to worry about that. Okay. Any other comments? Sure. All right. All in favor?
Yes.
Oppose? Abstain? That's an oppose or an abstain? Josh?
Opposed.
Opposed. Okay. All right. Because I thought it was an abstain, but okay. All right. Any other comments for the good of the order? I think we need somebody that can work with the chamber to make this happen. Daryl, since you're downtown, can I volunteer you?
Go on.
Okay. And I guess you can work with Hugh about barricades and Mark about barricades or whatever, and we'll see what happens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for all your hard work and pulling it all together.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, citizens' comments, general correspondence. We have a few thank you letters from our provider agencies. They were in the packet. So it's nice to know that they continue to do their... Oh, okay. I gotta hold on. Matt, there is somebody that's trying to come into the meeting. I sent you a...
I looked, Robin, and I don't see that. I'm looking at participants,
Yeah?
and I don't see anyone that's trying to get in. If you can respond, just tell them to send me an email, and I'll invite them.
Oh, I said, do have his email call earlier today. Okay, I'll go ahead and send him the email. Actually, you know what?
Just
I'll
tell me
copy
who it
their
is if I could send them
I
another
don't know who
invite.
it is. I just have an email address. All I have is an email address, but you know what? I'll forward your email
Okay.
to them. I'm sorry, you guys. A brief commercial interruption here. I will forward your email address to them. Oops.
Gosh, we need Lily for technical support.
Yeah, I've been monitoring my email on my iPhone to see if anybody's trying to get in, and I haven't gotten any messages.
I think at this point they probably don't have your email address, is what I'm
Okay.
kind of getting from
Okay.
their text message. So, Matt, do you want to talk about the letter from
Yeah.
Mrs. Lambert?
So we had the two letters from the provider agencies, New Hope for Women and Coastal Kids, thanking the town for its donations during the budget process last year and the annual town meeting. And then the other letter that's attached is from Mrs. Lambert, and the reason I included it in the packet is because Robin was copied on that message. This has been, as you might have seen from the letter, it's been an ongoing concern of Mrs. Lambert. She's been working with Maine DOT on it. She was under the impression that her issues, which turned out to be, the issues with her driveway turned out to be fairly significant. She was thinking that those would be resolved in our sidewalk project. And as I read through her letters and the letters from Maine DOT, I don't see any commitment to fix those issues. So that discussion will continue. I know I had before I came into this meeting, I had a phone message from her. I'll call her back tomorrow. But since that was on the agenda by virtue of it being a letter to Robin, I wanted to flag that for you. So that's all I had there, unless someone has any questions.
Will you get back in touch with her? Do you want me to get back in touch
Oh,
with
no,
her?
I'll give her a call tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
She's a very nice lady, and I wish we could make her happy, but I think what she's talking about is in the tens of thousands of dollars, and not the town's responsibility. But I will call her. Moving to town manager items, is that okay? Unless there may be some citizen comments.
Okay, let's move ahead. Town manager items.
Okay, I didn't see any. I'm scrolling through all your faces, and I don't see anybody waving their hands for citizen comments. You see a face on your Brady Bunch pictures here, and in my screen it's lower right-hand corner. His name is Eric Hall, and I'm very happy to welcome him as our intern. It's the first intern that we've had, and I've put Eric to work on a couple key projects for us. Eric's a recent graduate. 2020 graduate of Bowdoin College, and he's going to see if, during the summer, he's going to see if town management, city management is a career that he'd like to pursue. So delighted to have him on board. Eric, anything you'd like to say, or you don't have to say anything, but welcome.
Welcome, Eric. You sure picked a interesting town to come to. We're really busy, but Matt is a great guy to work with, so you'll learn a lot, that's for sure, and you won't have a minute's time to breathe.
Okay.
I'm super excited. Get to know Damariscotta more, and I hope to come in person once all this stuff starts to get figured out.
Yeah. Well, I love that you're working on the possibility of service fees for some of our nonprofits. That's terrific. I know that the budget committee's talked about that for 3 or 4 years running, so it's nice to finally be able to have somebody that has the time and the ability to do the research to get it looked into and see what we can do. So that's great.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything to say to Eric?
Welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah. Nice to
How long
meet
are you here for? How long will you be here?
Till mid-August, I think.
really good.
Can't wait to meet you in person. Say hey.
Okay. The COVID-19 related matters, I shared with the board, and I took an informal poll of you. You agreed with the approach that we extend the restrictions for town hall through June. Things are, as you know, are just still so much up in the air. The visits by appointment only are working well. Staff here continues to be very busy. Yeah, I can list for you the steps that we've taken. Becky wrote them out for me, including disinfecting every time somebody leaves, and we have the restrooms closed to the public. We've got the building basically split into two sections so that people can come in the front door near the columns and be served by one of our front area employees, and someone can be coming in from the other side and also be served by another town employee. So we can I think keep up with the demand pretty much, but it is taking quite a bit of effort. But again, it's warranted given the times that we are in. I don't have anything else on COVID-19 other than we're just going to need to wait and see how this all transpires, how all the different facets of this pandemic come together for Maine and for the Mid-Coast. The tax increment financing district, it was approved. That's fantastic news, and that we now have a dedicated revenue source to use as a local match for state and federal funding to build the Main Street sidewalk and hopefully an accompanying bikeway. So I'm going to be meeting with the Public Safety and Accessibility Committee on June 16th via Zoom, and we're going to decide on next steps. But I think right at the top of the list is getting an application together for pedestrian and bicycle funding through the state, and then we get in the queue, which takes at least 3 years, the time between when an application is approved to when you actually get funding. So we want to get in the queue for that just as soon as possible. Very exciting project. Waterfront Committee update, waterfront improvement project update. Got several items I'm working on there. Hopefully catch up on a few things I promised to the Economic Development Administration contact. Hopefully I'll be able to do that tomorrow. On the Bristol Road sidewalk project, and then let me mention that on the waterfront improvement project, because this isn't mentioned elsewhere, Jan Wegman from Wright Pierce is currently doing the update to the RFP for the restroom. I hope to get that. I was hoping to get that this week. If not this week, we'll have it in time for your meeting to get your approval to get that out and get the construction contractors looking at that. On the Bristol Road sidewalk project, in addition to giving folks an update that it's been delayed, but we're still shooting for that June 13th completion date that's in our contract. And the update I'd like to give you is we had talked about this years ago now, literally. The crossing, the crosswalk and the light at Bristol and Miles, I'm sorry, the citizens in the neighborhood had asked for a pedestrian activated light to cross, and that is not in the specs for this project. A few years ago we had asked MDOT if we could amend the project to include that equipment, and we were told we'd need to start this whole project over again because the traffic engineering study had already been completed. So I'd like to get that rolling again now that the project is going to be completed. And the issue there is the contractor's going to put up the crosswalk, paint the crosswalk. Our road commissioner is going to put up the pedestrian signs, but we cannot do any more than that. We can't put a pedestrian activated light in as long as that flashing beacon is there. It conflicts with national traffic safety standards. I'm not using the right term, but Robin probably knows what that is. But it's not appropriate in the way of engineering. Creates motorist confusion and such. So a solution, one possible solution would be to take out the beacon altogether and then install a pedestrian activated crossing light. The one I see most often is in Portland at the bus and train station when you walk from the outlying parking lots. Well, we have one downtown. I mean, right down the street here at Main Street that we installed for the school, GSB, and we have another one over here at Rising Tide. So the one I use is in Portland, but we do have two right in our neighborhood. Those, again, the only way we could put those in is if we had the beacon taken out. So the other thing I'd like to pursue, and I'll need to put this on the agenda for your next meeting, see if the board formally approves me going ahead with this, but I'd like to revisit the issue of speed limits with Region 2 traffic engineering. Now that we have a crosswalk, it seems like it makes even more sense to have the posted speed limit reduced in that area to 25 miles an hour. But I'll have that on your agenda for the next meeting. Did we want to talk about the sidewalk project anymore?
I just have a quick question about the crosswalk. What if you were to replace the flashing light with a street light? That would help the people coming out of Miles Hospital, the drivers coming out of Miles Hospital, as well as the pedestrians, and just put a traffic light up there, red, yellow, green.
Is that you, Robin? I can't tell who's talking.
It is, it's me.
Oh, okay, you weren't close enough to the computer. You said, why not just put
I'm sorry.
Yeah, why not just put a regular traffic light like we have over Biscayne and Maine or whatever. We can ask. I don't think that intersection will meet the warrants for MDOT. We can ask if that's an option. I think, as you mentioned that, I think probably the best step for us to take right now is to ask MDOT what the options are.
Yeah.
And that may certainly be one. The suggestion I had from one of the participants in the Public Safety and Accessibility Collaborative was to put the pedestrian-activated crossing light there and then have a stop sign at Miles and Bristol Road, at the Miles side of it. So, I mean, these are all options I think we can look at.
There's a stop sign on Miles Road.
There's a stop sign and a flashing light. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're suggesting put a stop sign on Bristol Road, so...
No, you just have is there a stop sign on Miles? I always see the flashing light, but I didn't know there was a stop sign there as well.
There's a stop sign there.
Okay.
I always stop, maybe because the flashing light's there, but I thought there was a stop sign there.
So, yeah, it would just have the stop sign. So.
Okay. Did you have another comment about Bristol Road, or are we moving on?
I didn't, unless we wanted to go back to the previous conversation.
No.
I guess my only comment about Bristol Road is I think that we need to meet the specifications of the contract. Okay, the joint RFP, the town of Bristol for some paving work.
Yeah, I think this is really good news. I got, the board has asked me in the past to do as much regionally as we can. And I got a call from Chris Hall, the town administrator in Bristol, a week or so ago, and he asked if we had any smaller road paving projects that we would like to include in their RFP for road paving. And at first I thought, no, we don't, but then it occurred to me, and maybe Josh flagged it for me, we've got the paving of the parking lot at the fire station and the driveway at the fire station in the capital improvement program budget for this July, next month. So I'm working with you and the Public Works Committee to put together the specs, and Bristol will add that to their RFP, so we'll be able to go out for joint bids and maybe get a little better price from contractors. I wanted to introduce you. We don't need to talk much. Oh.
Matt, can I do a brief commercial interruption here and just thank the Public Works Committee, because I know you guys meet behind the scenes and do a whole lot of work to make it easier for all of us to figure out what's going on in town. So all of the people that are on the Public Works Committee, thank you. Okay, Matt, I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, I was just looking to see if your message came through, or for the person who was trying to...
It is. It's Alan Dodge, and here he is.
Oh, is he there?
Yes.
Okay. All right, very
I
good.
see his name. I don't see his face.
Okay, yeah, there he is, GSB. Very good. So, yeah, I did send him an invite earlier. So we're going to work through all these tech. We'll have this all figured out when we don't need Zoom anymore, but we'll have it all figured out. Okay, yeah, I wanted to flag this item, the Church Street culvert. You know, we have in our long-term plans extending the sidewalk down Church Street. There's not enough room with on the bridge that goes over Kastner Brook. And coming into play here at the same time is a program called Coastwise that we're a participant in, and it has to do with coastal stream culverts. And last Friday, Bob Faunce and I met with Slade Moore from the Coastwise program down in Kastner Brook, and we went to both sides of the culvert, the 6-foot culvert. That needs some major retrofit if it is to be a viable wildlife corridor, fish, deer, I don't know, rabbits, porcupines, whatever. And at the same time, we want to be able to expand that roadway to be able to include the sidewalk. So I just want to make you aware. I'll send you some pictures later of the culvert, and I think there's probably a couple of you that grew up here, Daryl, Josh, Mark. You might have some ideas on what the history of that culvert is, but right now it's a 6-foot pipe. I always thought it was a bridge. It's a 6-foot pipe, and it really does need some retrofit. So again, I want to just flag that right now, say that we're looking at that from a variety of perspectives to see if maybe that's something we can pursue in the next few years.
You know, I'd like to say something on that. There is a sewer line that goes down through there that's on top of that culvert. Quite a bit of sewer goes through there, a pressure line. You know, I can't remember the year we put that in. You know, and I agree, if you're gonna do it, you'd wanna do like a casement with cement, something you can add your sidewalk on the side. You know, do it right, that's for sure.
Okay, good, thank you. And the last item I had on my town manager list is the shellfish resiliency study. That is moving along with a number of changes due to the pandemic and the restrictions that have come about as a result of the pandemic. They are going to be testing a survey. I'm going to be filling that out, and other folks that are in the shellfish industry in any way, whether they're fishermen, retailers, or whatever, if they're interested in participating in that survey, that would be great. And again, the purpose of this grant-funded study that we're doing in partnership with the town of Bremen and the Darling Marine Center is to identify the status, assess the status of the shellfishing resource. So it's quahogs, soft-shell clams, mussels, worms, and razor clams in the Newcastle Damariscotta tidal area. And the idea is, I'm getting some feedback, I'm not sure why, but the idea is that once we identify that resource and we get a history of where that resource is going, we can start to implement some management tools to try to conserve and protect it so that it continues to be a viable industry for us. And it also includes oysters. There's a lot of oysters that either get out of the oyster farms or are growing wild there, and that's become an important part of the shellfish industry for people who have been in it for decades. So that's going to be included as well. So just to let you know, that's continuing. At some point, I'll have the students that are working on this, and Heather Leslie, who's the executive director for the Darling Center, give you a status report. Then the only other item I had today that I want to report is we've been smelling a rotten egg smell here at Town Hall, and we smelled it again today. I had the building evacuated, the fire department responded. We did find a small leak in the attic area, and that's being addressed. But I'm very proud of our staff because we don't do fire drills that often, and everyone remembered the rules. We immediately go to a pre-designated site so we know who's out of the building and who still might be in here, and it worked well until the fire department came and gave us the all clear. So just a little bit of excitement at a time when that was the last thing we needed. So we can move to official action items if you like. Oh, you know what I'm going to do is Mark Carter has been sending me messages, and I'm going to bring him in. Mark Carter is our contact with Real Term Energy, and I'm going to bring Mark in, and Bob Fawns and George Parker. Because they'll be here to talk about the RFP. Okay. See if Mark's on yet. If not, I'll just move ahead on it, but I thought it'd be good for you to meet him.
Conversation starter. You're gonna break the silence.
Matt, do you want to go ahead and start talking
Yeah,
about it?
I will. I
They
just
come
was,
in, you can,
I was hoping.
just introduce
we could
Mark.
be- Oh, Mark's here. Very good.
Here's Mark.
His voice will come on momentarily. Oh, Mark, there you are. Can you hear me? Mark? He's connecting to audio now. Okay, so I'll go ahead. Maybe he's having some difficulty. So, yeah, Mark is going to be our representative at Real Term as we go through this process. The first step in the process is going to be this audit that Real Term will do of our existing infrastructure, and that will involve seeing what's out there. We have a list of streetlights, and I'm pretty confident that that's there he is. Mark, I was just explaining the first step in the process. Mark Carter, this is the Damariscotta Board of Selectmen and some other interested parties and our management intern. You can hear me okay?
Can't hear you, Mark.
Can't hear Mark. So the first step in this process will be for the consultant to go out and assess what we have in place. We have, as I was saying, we have an inventory for CMP, some from CMP that I'm pretty confident is correct, because we check the streetlights periodically to make sure they're working. So I believe we've got a pretty solid case with that, but pretty solid handle on that. But the contract that you have before you includes Real Term going out and making an assessment of all of our streetlights, making sure they're where CMP says they are, and then looking at the infrastructure itself, the light fixture and the arms that hold the light fixture, the mast arms, and then the wiring that connects. And based on that, they'll be able to give us a more exact figure of what the conversion will cost. It's doubtful that there'll be much more than just the fixtures themselves that need to be replaced. And then included in the contract is assistance from Mark in getting the purchase of the lights from CMP. Fortunately, the path has already been made for us by towns and cities that have been doing this for a number of years. So it's not a difficult process. The PUC has the necessary steps, pretty well lined out, so we'll just follow that format. We're going to have to pay CMP, I think it's about $10,300 for the fixtures. Also, can you hear me, Mark?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, you're
I just
on.
wanted to go back and clarify also, or just add on to your comments regarding the audit. So the first step is that GIS audit to look at the pole placements, but there's also a number of other things we collect at that point that's used as part of the photometric design. So we also, I think we collect about 15 to 18 data points. So we need to know the road width, not just the pole height, but the fixture height. So how high the pole is, how long the mast arm is, really dictates where that light sits over the road. So it helps when our photometric designers actually design the right wattage for that location. So the closer you are to the road, you need a lower wattage. So that all plays into that road width, road classification setback. So we do collect a number of other points, not just to verify the actual placement per CMPs, but it does help in the reconciliation.
Mark, can I ask you a quick question?
Absolutely.
Okay, on the lamp wattage, I was looking at the pedestrian activity, and you have that in a footnote. Pedestrian activity in the first hour after dark. Well, after dark, as you know, is 8 o'clock in the summer and 4 in the winter. So how do you make the adjustments for all that? And I guess the lamp poles out of town versus on Main Street where there's a lot more pedestrian activity? Is it, you know, I guess this is just so you know how much wattage to put in, or you know, because we don't have a lot of pedestrians once you get off Main Street after dark in most areas of town.
Yeah, what it does is it plays into the road classification, and the road classifications will help dictate. So the more less travel or less vehicular pedestrian conflict, you're going to get a lower road classification, which allows for less light. So or lower lighting.
Okay.
And, so that's just a standard that IES uses for their RP 18 guidelines, and is whatever that road the pedestrian conflict is 1 hour after sunset.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I have talked to Matt today about this. I was interested in the inventory of existing lights. Matt's been talking about future sidewalk development down Church Street and some other areas, and I asked him about the possibility or the potential or whatever for future street lights as sidewalks are built. And he said that's not figured into your inventory. Your inventory is just what's there now, but that in the future we can just add on as need be, or would we come back to you to say where do we need them now that new sidewalks are built?
Well, you could do either. I mean, you could do it yourself, or if you want to come back to us, we'd love to help you. And so we'll take a look at what the road design is going to be, what's required for that. And it's a slightly different process with CMP. So on the existing 99 streetlights that you already have a mast arm, you already have a grandfather clause on its location. And so you can swap out the old high-pressure sodium light with the new LED without CMP's interaction. I mean, you have to buy them, but they don't have to come out and look at the pole. For any new lights that you want to add, and I'd say a number of municipalities who've added lights in Falmouth and Biddeford and other places, the only difference is that you do have to provide the pole ID and location to CMP, because they need to send an engineer out to look for a couple things. Number one, for pole integrity, to make sure that it can take the stress of that weight, and also if there's secondary power run to that pole. So in some locations, if there's no transformer nearby and it's just a longer stretch, there'll just be no 110 voltage, it'll just be the medium voltage. So they would have to put a transformer ready to power it. So it's attachment B in the procurement document. So whether you do it now or later, you can add as many streetlights as you'd like.
And so it'd be up to our Mark, go ahead.
I got a question here. If the pole needed to be replaced before we did this, would Central Maine Power do this at no cost, or is that something the town would extra cost be looking at?
The poles are actually the assets of the utility of CMP, so they would be responsible for any pole replacements.
Thank you.
So yeah, in Damariscotta, we have poles that are owned by CMP and also by Tidewater. So they, as Mark Carter just said, they continue to be their responsibility and under their ownership.
So if we wanted to put a new street light on a pole that's owned by Tidewater, we still have CMP come out because it's electrical work? Or do they both come out? Does Tidewater come out? Who, you know, how would that?
Well, we need to get permission from Tidewater to use their pole, but obviously the electrical hookup would be CMP, and then we would have responsibility from, Mark can tell you exactly where, but some point on the pole up to the light fixture.
So it's essentially, that's the way it works now, except it's a CMP lighting rather than real-term lighting or town lighting. It's kind of the same process that we have now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
my recommendation is to approve the professional services agreement with Real-Term and to utilize funds from our contingency account in the amount of $3,000 to fund that. agreement.
So moved.
Second.
More discussion. Mark?
Yep.
Oh, that was a second? Okay.
And I just,
Any other comments? Mark, Matt?
yeah, I just want to say that Bristol and Newcastle have already approved identical agreements, except of course for the number of lights and the information specific to their communities.
Terrific. All right, if there aren't any other questions, all in favor? Okay. Matt, are you voting too?
No, I have to scroll back and forth on my gallery view so that the people who are watching on LCTV can see all your faces, not just some of them.
Okay.
So I'm not ready to become a selectman. Thank you very much, Mark Carter.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
thank you very much. Waterfront improvement. Did I hear a voice, a question?
I missed the motion and the second.
Okay, I made the motion to
I
take,
second.
yeah. And it was to take $3,000 from the contingency account to apply to the real term agreement.
Yeah. I got the motion, I just didn't get who made it.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay. Waterfront improvement, project engineering services.
This represents a considerable amount of work by Bob Faunce and George, so I dragged them out at 10 minutes to 7 tonight so that they can answer some questions if you have them. I think it's a very thorough document, and overall the concept is to take what we can out of the Wright Pierce request for bids specifications for the parking lot, take that was completed a year ago, and add to it the flood resiliency components. And we're hoping that we can get the interest of a number of engineering teams, and by teams I mean folks that have the expertise in just the solid infrastructure, civil engineering, but also national firms that have the expertise in flood resiliency and sea level rise and storm surge. So we're very optimistic that given the resources we have through the EDA grant, we're going to get a lot of interest in the field. So a lot of people are watching us to see how we do. Do you have any specific questions? I guess before I mention that, we have a provision in our town charter that says that the Board of Selectmen have the authority to accept or reject any and all bids. And I would just like the board to be flexible on that so that we can accommodate the economic development administration requirements. And that's why I've asked for a waiver of that to amend that language. Obviously, if they don't want us to choose a particular consultant, we shouldn't do it. They're picking up 3/4 of the bill. So we just need to be a little flexible on that charter requirement.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the RFP for waterfront improvement project engineering services.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Thank you.
That was painless.
George?
I'm George. I'm Robin.
I want to go back and have some.
Bob?
Josh, did you include in your
Oh,
motion?
George? you miss this?
Oh, yeah. I have been on so many Zoom meetings on so many different things.
No, I was talking about being on the Board of Selectmen.
Oh, I know you were, but I was gonna say I've been involved in other things too.
Oh, I know.
Along with Dick and Haas and everybody.
We're glad that you're back working with us again.
Oh, it's a
Still working
pleasure.
with us, I should say.
Thank you, George.
Okay,
Thanks,
well,
George.
I'll let you guys get back to your business.
So,
Come back and enjoy your dinner.
Thanks, Bob. Bye.
Robin, if we could just back up a second, if Josh could approve by a friendly amendment the portion of my recommended motion that says waive town charter bid guidelines related to the language required in bid advertisements.
Yeah, that sounds like what I just said.
Okay.
That's just what I seconded.
We
Okay.
need to vote again.
All
All
right.
in favor? Make it official.
Good, thank you. I'm sorry I didn't flag that.
No, that's okay. I should have caught that. Okay, a date for the public hearing on adult use marijuana. That's what's coming up next.
Well, we could do the advertisement for bids, bid preparation, construction management contract.
Okay.
It's similar to what you just approved, but this would be the approval of a task order with Wright Pierce to move forward on preparing the advertisement for bids for the sanitary sewer lines. The contract itself, which is approximately $34,000, would be paid for with town funds that we've set aside for the project. Those would not be reimbursed in any way. Those funds would not be reimbursed in any way because we haven't gone out for competitive bids. But I think it's important that we move ahead quickly on both the sewer lines and later, hopefully the next meeting, the restroom RFP. So we do have the funds available to do this, and I think it makes a lot of sense to use Wright Pierce given their involvement over the years in this project.
Great. Well, I make a motion that we waive the town charter guidelines and approve the negotiated task order with Wright Pierce, letter dated May 26, 2020, for the preparation for advertisement of bids and construction oversight for the replacement of sanitary sewer service lines below the municipal parking lot for a total not to exceed $34,700.
Second.
Discussion. And I take it they're going to be working with our sanitary district to
definitely.
make sure everything's...
That's part of the task order. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in favor. You know, is everybody just as amazed as I am that we're actually starting to do this? It's been so long. Okay. Fireworks display.
Chris Roberts is on the line. I don't see his picture, but he's there. And
Hey, Chris, talk about fireworks? Is he not?
Chris, okay, I don't know if he's tuned in, or maybe his audio isn't working. But
Yeah.
I'm just going to review what I told you in the town manager notes. We could go ahead. Well, first of all, the town's the host for the fireworks display. It's paid for largely by donations from various businesses, and Chris Roberts is the publisher of Lincoln County News, is the pivotal person here, and that he goes knocking on doors every year to get the funds to do this. So not only does he get the dollars to do the fireworks display and coordinates with the contractor for the display, he sets up the logistics for the band and the other activities that occur during the day, typically on July 4th. We've always been able to have it on July 4th. My recommendation is that we make an exception this year just because of the crowd size limitations and the social distancing and the fact that I think it'd be a bore trying to watch the fireworks through my dirty windshield and pitted windshield of my truck. So I think it makes sense to postpone it, and the dates that Chris and I talked about were the dates that coincide with either the Labor Day weekend or Columbus Day weekend, and preferably on the Saturday or Sunday of those weekends, those holiday weekends. Chris, are you able to communicate yet? No. Okay. So.
He can chat. Can he chat? There's the little chat feature down there if he wants to chat with us.
Well, with no pumpkin fest this year, the Columbus Day weekend needs a filler.
You know, that's kind of what I was thinking. Get up.
Just to throw something out there, yeah.
Get the leaf peepers up here.
Yeah.
Josh, Lou, Mark, any idea?
Motion,
No, wait. Columbus Day,
Columbus Day?
Labor Day, any other day?
No, Columbus Day weekend.
Josh?
I'm good with it. I'm good with it.
Okay, so Daryl, did you make a motion for Columbus Day?
I'll make a motion for the 4th of July fireworks to be on Columbus Day.
It's Indigenous Peoples Day. Indigenous Peoples Day.
It says Columbus Day, yes, I agree. Yeah, Indigenous Peoples Day.
So did I have a second
Second.
Robin,
discussion? Yes, sir.
we don't want to, I don't think we want to have it on Columbus Day evening, that Monday evening, because people are all going back.
No, that weekend.
So
Saturday.
the weekend, so the Saturday? Okay.
Saturday.
Okay, I didn't hear you. Okay.
Indigenous Peoples Day weekend.
Any other discussion?
Dick has his hand up.
Okay. Dick?
Yeah, and you actually, Daryl, beat me to it, but Saturday gives you a rain day.
On Sunday.
Also.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Very good. Thank you.
And I guess we need to remind people that fireworks are not allowed downtown on any day. Never mind the 4th of July, except for those approved by the town. So this 4th of July, watch your fireworks. Okay, now, the date for the public hearing on adult use in retail establishment.
I talked with Dave Page today, the owner of Coastal Cannabis, and he's okay with us having a public hearing on July 1st on his permit application for adult use retail sales. Also, the planning board did approve all aspects of the site plan review. So he has the green light there. He has his conditional permit from the state. The next step is for our police and fire department, code enforcement officer to do an inspection of the proposed site, and then for Dave to come before you in a public hearing and us to send out the notices prior to that. So, my recommendation is you set the public hearing for July 1st.
Okay, your motion?
I make a motion, we have the public hearing on July 1st.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor? And Matt, I would ask you that the person that anonymously sent the email to town to send them a special email saying that it's on July 1st and be sure to show up for the hearing.
I will.
Thank you. Selectmen's discussion items. Okay, I'm going to go around. Josh?
Did we cover the Vine Street bid administrative service contract?
That's tabled until the next meeting.
That's the table to the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess my only selectmen's discussion thing on my line item for me was congratulations to all the 2012 2020 graduates. I know it was a tough year for you and how you finished out, but congratulations to all of you, and you'll see all the names of Lincoln Academy on the fire department sign on Biskie Road.
Great.
And I think starting next week, you might see the Great Salt Bay kids on that. So congratulations to you all and all the college graduates as well. So,
Absolutely.
good luck.
It's been a weird graduation for people this year, but it'll be one that they remember. So one of my grandsons graduated virtually, so to speak. So yeah, no fun. But okay, Daryl, I'm just going in the order that I see you.
I don't really have much tonight. I guess it's nice seeing a lot of feedback downtown with the projects happening. Bristol Road looks great, and feel excited about that. And then, I get a lot of questions about now that the money's here, where's the bathroom? It takes a little bit of time, but we're getting there. So, people are paying attention, and it seems like they're excited. So, that's all I've got.
Lou?
I have nothing except to wish the graduates a happy graduation.
Okay. Mark?
The only thing I have is I got a question for Matt as far as I know we voted to accept that reclaim to be put on the heater road, and how thick is that gonna be?
You didn't vote on it yet. I'm still, I've asked Hugh to get more specifics on what exactly would be done. So I will, and before we move ahead with the contract, I'll need to get your approval because it's over the 5,000 limit, and I've also got to make sure that we have those dollars available. The quote that we were given was for 660 feet, and we need 1,000 feet, linear feet. So there's some adjustments that have to be made. So basically what I wanted to do is just, at the last meeting, I just flagged that for you. But I'll be coming back with a specific proposal for you to review, and that'll include the depth.
Okay, so we didn't vote on that.
No.
What I'm concerned about is I don't want to see us do what we did on Bristol Road, where we paid $16,000, and I really don't see much left on Bristol Road.
I'm having a little trouble hearing you, Mark, but you said you don't want the same thing to happen as on Bristol Road?
Yeah, because there's not much left there at all. We paid the state $16,000.
Oh, on the
shoulders.
The shoulders of the road, yeah.
Oh,
weeds were growing up the road like 2 weeks.
That's a good point. So yeah, just to review that and give, refresh your memories on that. So we had asked the state to come through after the paving was done and to put an asphalt cover on the shoulder from Miles down to the town line, the Bristol town line. They did it, but it was not a quality job, and we didn't pay for it. We never paid for it. So what we need to do is flag that for the next time Bristol Road is paved or repaved, and that shoulder needs to be dug out, a good base put in, and whatever you think, I guess 3 to 6 inch asphalt, base. Maybe it's a rough asphalt, but it needs to be solid. Right now, it doesn't work. It didn't work, and we didn't pay for it.
Yeah, Bristol can have those wonderful shoulders.
I know.
On the same road,
I know.
that we're on. It seems like Damariscotta can have those wonderful shoulders too. But I thought that the heater road was going to be like the Hillside Cemetery. That it was going to be, kind of because that's reclaim, isn't it? The road that goes through Hillside
I
Cemetery?
don't believe
thought that
that's
was
reclaim. I think that's a,
No, we paid that.
Oh, was it? I thought it was reclaim. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's
yeah,
last
reclaim
year.
is gonna be quite a bit rougher. But if it's done right, it should last. It's better than a gravel road.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay, I just have two things. I heard from two people about the Christmas tree at the Chapman house, which is, brown and needles are falling off, and it's not only looks bad, but it's a fire hazard. And I believe that Chief Roberts has been told about it, that tree needs to come down. We'd hate to have lightning hit it and, the Chapman Hall house catch on fire. And the other thing is I met with Matt, and I was going through all of these different agenda items tonight that dealt with the waterfront, and I said, where is the boardwalk in all of this? Way back when the Shore and Harbor report talked about two boardwalks. One was just a rectangular one was built like a ship, and I didn't see anything in there. And so I said, I know we're doing a lot of work, and none of the work that we're doing right now includes a boardwalk of any sort, but there are some opportunities if you go back and read even the TIF proposal, the possibility, not today, not next year, but maybe in 5 years, that is something that we can include in, for some funding of some of these projects. So I would encourage you to go back and look at the ones that popped out at me, aside from the TIF, was the, which one was it, Matt? Well, the municipal parking lot improvement. I want to say on the very last page or the second to last page, it talks about improvements to the park. And so, like I say, for future grants and what have you, maybe we want to consider that, as well as that, for lack of a better term, boardwalk parking area over Misery Gulch, which we kind of had a verbal okay from the Army Corps of Engineers to use that for boat parking, where the boat trailers could go up on the boardwalk and it would free up some parking space in the municipal parking lot. So I just wanted to bring that up because a lot of people have been asking me about it since the article in the newspaper talked about we're getting funding and parking lot improvements, and everybody's saying, oh boy, we're going to have a boardwalk. So anyway, I just wanted to let you all know that that's what some of the people in town are thinking about. So I am too.
May I comment?
Quickly.
There are several designs of boardwalks that were part of the conversation of the Waterfront Committee 5 to 7 years ago.
Right.
And I have all of them. So
okay.
When we want to have that conversation, we can look at what was being talked about then.
Okay. And, and it might even be something that is delayed long enough for the comprehensive plan. Who knows? But I just didn't want it to fall by the wayside. So, there you have it. Do I hear a motion to adjourn if there's nothing else for the good of the order?
To adjourn. Second.
All in favor? It's good to see each of you. Take care. Stay well.
Bye.
Good night.